The views expressed on the Nova Society are those of the panelists and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Phoenix Research Institute or any institution with which any panel member is associated. Reproduction or dissemination, other than for the purpose of education or information, without the expressed written permission of the Phoenix Research Institute or Nova Society Media is strictly prohibited. Welcome back to the Nova Society, the space where dialogue deepens understanding and civic responsibility comes to life. I'm Dr. Mark Bound, joined by my partner in crime, Dr. Scott Gershwer, and together we'll unpack the stories that matter most, exploring the headlines and history. The big ideas shaping today's conversations. Let's dive in and hear what our guests and listeners have for us today. And today we're going to be welcoming in Eva Posner, and she is the CEO of Evinco, which is, I believe, a political consulting firm.
It is a consulting firm.
It is a consulting firm, and they really are talking about things like journalism and political consulting, strategies, work-life balance in politics, training the next generation of operatives. That's something we're going to hit on a little bit.
Love it.
When we start talking about like the burnout, one of the things I noticed on their website, burnout during the Trump era. So I wanted to start kind of with that.
Okay.
Just because. So we know we have burnout, and gosh, so many people are really suffering from total Trump burnout. They're tired of him. They want him to go away. And unfortunately, we've mentioned numerous times, we're stuck with him for the next 3 years, at least technically. So even though people have burnout, and I know you like work with Democrats a lot, how could you help Democrats become more popular? Because the bottom line is their numbers suck. I mean, when it comes to, we have a president that most people hate. We have a Congress that everybody hates, but they've always hated. But they seem to like the Republicans, the crazies, better than they do the Democrats. So, first of all, why do you think that is, number one? And number two, in your consulting, how are you going to fix that?
Okay. So, starting small and casual, I see. Let's see. I will just say from the get-go that nobody has the answer to this question, and the genuine answer, because if we did, we wouldn't be in this situation. Also, if I did have the answer, I would be running the Democratic Party and I would make so much more money. So I just would like to put that out there. I have some working theories though, that I'm happy to share. So I think, first off, people aren't just burnt out with Trump. They're burnt out with politics in general. They're burnt out because they're burnt out on the economy. They're burnt out from having to scrape and scramble to survive constantly. We're in a situation where people's basic Maslow's hierarchy of needs are not getting met, right? Like food, safety, shelter, those very basic things are in constant threat. And when you're in constant threat at the very prospect of being able to survive or raise your family, let alone thrive, let alone plan for the future, you're not making you're not being able to gather the information that you need, and you're not necessarily making rational, thoughtful, long-term decisions because our brains don't work that way. We don't have the brain power to do both. So I think, that is a big piece of it that I would just say flat out is that people are burnt out on life in the United States. Right? People are burnt out on life since, I don't know, January of 2020. People are just tired in a way and suffering in a way that politicians in general, regardless of party, are having a hard time breaking through to. As such, you end up with just a giant anti-incumbent, giant dissatisfaction wave of people who are figuring out that maybe politicians just don't give a shit about them. There is some validity to the idea that doesn't really matter who you vote for, right? People are not stupid. They're tired of being lied to. They're tired of voting over and over and over again, taking poll after poll, telling Congress, telling their elected officials that they want this, that, or the other, right? and having no outcomes, no political outcomes that match those desires. And so you just end up with a complete lack of trust in the system. When you have that and everyone is just pissed off, you don't fix anger by telling people that they just don't understand. And if they read that one white paper, that they would, or they read the 10-point policy plan, or they watched this press conference, that they would get it and they would understand just how helpful Uncle Joe has been. That doesn't work. You're not intellectually appealing to solve anger. You have to lean into that anger. You have to tell people that their feelings are valid. You have to tell them that they're right and that it's okay to be angry. And because the Democratic Party, is unwilling to challenge itself on incumbency, on establishment corporate politics, on so many of the things that keep them from actually doing anything, a la like the healthcare shutdown, for example, they're not listening either. So why should you trust? It's not enough to hate Trump. It's not enough to run against Trump. And you have one party telling people they're stupid and the other party telling people they're right, and here's who to blame. And I think basic human psychology just wins out at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm we don't do the visual on this podcast. We're only audio.
Okay.
So I do want to mention the fact that you're wearing guillotine earrings because they can't see it, but man, those are great.
Thank you so much.
And I have to think that they're pointed.
They might be purposeful. I tend to wear them when I'm making public appearances, if I'm at a conference, if I'm in a sales call. I just want people to get the proper first impression of the ideology that they're dealing with. At a certain point, it makes it a much more efficient conversation for both of us, and we can figure out whether or not we're going to work together and we're going to vibe, or we just need to part ways.
Right.
The visual cues help people, approach or stay away.
Gotcha. So I'm not saying that I disagree with anything that you just said. I'm only saying it doesn't make sense. And I guess it doesn't make sense because it's not mental, it's emotional.
Yes.
So how do I'm not shilling for the Democratic Party here, but how do the Democrats regain some emotional high ground here?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is why it doesn't make sense, is because we keep bringing facts to a feelings fight. And that is just, that's silly. You're using the wrong weapon. I mean, part of it is, again, same as before. I don't know because nobody knows, because if we knew, we wouldn't be here. But again, working theory, I think that we have to change the way that we communicate with people. I think one of the things that I've been doing over the course of the last year and a half is reteaching myself how to write, reteaching myself how to explain issues, because political writing, political communication is very talking pointy and very academic and very multisyllabic, and you write as if you're writing a press release for the newspaper, not as if you're talking to a human being. And we tend to focus on facts and figures and statistics as opposed to story. And so I'm not the expert on this, but I have a friend who is. His name's Frank Spink. He's genius, and he is a narrative framework expert, and he's taught me a lot about the science of narrative. And so I've been working through communicating less with terms and definitions and statistics, and more with protagonists and stakes and tension, and making sure that there's a good guy and a bad guy, and there's an emotional appeal to the story, because stories get ingrained in your brain, whereas facts just fall right out, especially nowadays when our attention spans are just universally shorter than they used to be, and getting shorter every day, from what I can tell. The other piece of this that I think is just really key across the board, and it's not just the Democrats, but you would hope that the Democrats would be willing to fix it, is that the political industry is not built to listen to people. It is not an intake machine. It is a mass media output machine. And it is an industry. I want to be very, very clear with that. Politics is not the parties the way that people think it is anymore. It's not conventions and activists and rallies. It is not like exclusively this thing that you've elected from the bottom up and you've chosen and whatever. There is an entire like shadow industry of unelected people like me with a vested financial interest in the outcome of a race, right? And that is either, it may be because they are lobbying for some cause. I think lobbyists get a lot of the hit when it comes to money in politics, but it's a lot bigger than that. Or it may just be like, this is my client and I am paid to help them win, right? There are those of us who run like purely ideological firms and like don't work with people we don't believe in. And then there are those of us who are mercenaries. And, and they like hang out once a year at an annual conference. It's a wild world out there. As an industry, we have largely stopped talking to human beings in any kind of nuanced way. We have polls and we'll come up with a theory, a question that we want to test, and a theory about how we think it's going to go. We write that poll specifically to get the answer that we wanted in the first place so that we can show everyone that we were right and fundraise off of it. And then we put that poll out into the field and we ask 500 people out of 200,000 or 3 million or whatever your district is, yes or no questions about that topic. And that's it. That's all the information we get from like a mass perspective. There are field programs and things like that, but they're not invested in the same way because they don't have the same profit margins as things like taking that polling and turning it into a TV commercial, doing a $200,000 TV commercial buy, getting 15% back on that buy, and then shouting at people what you've always thought the entire time. You're talking at them instead of talking with them. And so you're just trying to persuade them of this thing that you already think is true rather than trying to find out what is going on. So I think that is like a huge part of it, is that the politics now is a mass media industry. It is not retail politics anymore. It is not person to person the way it used to be. One of the things that makes that true is that the presidential election is the election that makes everybody the money, which is why it's the sexy election, by the way. It's not the sexy election because it's the most powerful office that you deal with every day, because that's just like fundamentally untrue. It's the sexy election because the industry has told everyone for decades and decades that it's the sexy election because it's the one that they make the most money off of. When you have all of the effort, all of the brain power, all of the organizing, and all of the money going in once every 4 years to one race with 2 people in it, you end up in a situation where you're, again, not talking to people. Donald Trump did not come knock on your door. Neither did Kamala Harris. And if they did, it was pre-staged, pre-screened by Secret Service, and maybe they talked to 3 people. They're not asking about, is your school funded? How's the park down the street? Do you have a grocery store? Do you have a pharmacy that you can easily get to? Do you have access to, basic fresh vegetables? Those kinds of things. They're not talking about quality of life issues and getting that information. The elected officials and candidates who are your local elected officials. And so what it should be, how this should work in a federalist society where the power theoretically is at the local level, by the Constitution, the offices that have the most impact on your day-to-day life, those folks are your neighbors. Your mayor lives down the street from you, right? Your city council member might go to church with you. You can hold those people accountable, and they have, even if they are asshole snobs, because politicians, they at least understand what your life might look like. They've been to your neighborhood. They have a vague understanding of the issues surrounding your life. And you can have conversations with them about the things that impact your life in a much more nuanced way. So I really think that politics is funded and weighted upside down. It should be weighted from the local level. We should be sending all those candidates out, funding them with big field programs, big input mechanisms, going out, collecting that data from the bottom up, actually listening to people, and then sending it up, because it doesn't work the other way. The United States is too damn big. There is no one universal message or universal issue for every lived experience in the United States, because it really probably geographically should be 30 countries. It's just too big. There's too many of us, and it does not work top down.
Yeah. So, one of the things that I theorize on is that we've become a society, and it might speak to some of the issues that you're talking about here. We are the Honey Boo Boo Society. There are people out there that truly believe that Honey Boo Boo is real. There are people that believe that what we see on, reality TV is actually reality. And if you've got an electorate with that kind of mindset, as somebody that works with this, how do you speak to those people to get them? And as you say, the attention span is like a gnat, truly like a gnat.
Yeah.
And they long for that reality kind of TV thing. Duck Dynasty, give me that, so that I can relate to that. And I see a lot of politicians right now are basically moving in that direction. So again, I ask you, and I'm going to use actually one of the questions from your website, and it's one of the questions that I took because I think you've got a very holistic approach to this, and I think that's a very good thing to have. I think it's the only way to make this work. So, what essential elements? And again, neither party, either one. What essential elements of building political movements that last beyond a single candidate or elective cycles? What do you considering that you've got the Honey Boo Boo Society looking for reality TV, taking that as a constant?
Yeah, I mean, our information infrastructure is fucked, and I will put a pin in that. I have a whole soapbox about that. It's fucked and it's purposeful and it's been decades long, but we'll get there. So the essential elements, again, I think we kind of touched on it in the last question, is the biggest piece is like meeting people where they're at and actually talking with them, right? If people think they're friends with that influencer, then you need influencers, right? If people are getting their long form information from podcasts, which more and more people are, we don't read anymore, we listen now. And we don't even watch like long shows or long videos, but we can do an hour's worth of content and like take it in. Then you need podcasts. Like you need to meet people where we're at. So there's like the media mix piece of it, but also understanding that the algorithm is working against you because the people who own those algorithms are not on your side. So you're actually already playing on a tilted playing field. That is where I think, and this is going to sound like really lame and old school, but again, I want to harp on talking to human beings face to face. Instead of spending, $200,000 on a TV commercial, what if you spent for like 6 weeks of, coverage that may or may not get people to turn out to vote and may or may not get them to persuade? What if you put that $200,000 into a 3-year, 4-year multi-cycle field program, going to knock on doors, going to coffee shops, riding the buses with people, talking to people and trying to find out like what the fuck they care about and how to fix it? Also, and this is like a really basic thing, any just pro tip for anybody out there running for office, a really solid strategy. I'm going to give you this for free. Just keep your promises, like do the shit you said you were going to do when you ran for office. Like that would go such a long way. I can't even explain how much that could fix. Just like, I don't know, be worthy of trust. Just a thought. But having the human conversations, the multi-cycle funding that is not just about, the big sexy races, president, Congress. It is almost impossible to fundraise in off years, but that's when we need to be talking to people. We can't just show up once every 4 years and say where you at. And then also like collecting that data. The other thing that we need to really work on is expanding the electorate. They are decades ahead of us. Centuries really ahead of us on the like voter suppression and oppression piece of this, like literally since the Constitution, right? Like there was a very small select group of people that got to be there when that was written and were written into it. And it has forming that more perfect union has meant including more and more communities. And now we're starting to see, and we've been like slow rolling this over time. And since the Voting Rights Act was torn to shreds by the Supreme Court, we've been watching it erode. And so you have mass people who are like pulled off of voter rolls. If you look at the Clinton election in 2016, when we got Trump the first time, there were states where we lost by a lower number than the margin of people who were pulled off the voter rolls, right? Like, we are in a situation where, you know, you have this, and we're getting into like all kinds of intersectionalities, but the criminal punishment system and its racist ass bullshit that is making it so that like this disproportionate number of Black and brown people are felons and then therefore can never vote, right? And you take voting rights away for, I don't know, having weed. Like, fuck you. You have all of these situations. You have the SAVE Act right now. They're trying to take away the right to vote just because you got married, which, by the way, I thought they wanted us to get married. That's like a wild, punishing us for it seems kind of crazy. I'm very glad I didn't change my last name when I got married, because I'm a dirty feminist. But like, I have a lot of friends and family who do have their husbands' names, and now like, are they going to be able to vote? Like, it's really difficult to out-organize oppression, and you have to be able to do that at the state level, at the legislative level, at the judicial level, and you have to be fighting these rule changes. You have to be organizing in these states. You have to be like the army of lawyers that we need, along with our army of organizers, like, that needs funding, and it can't just be tied to like, can we afford the Las Vegas Dome thing?
So, by way of giving you a suggestion,
Yes, sir.
I want to say that I worked for a state senator in Brooklyn, New York, for 5 years, and the first day that I walked into his office, and he said he knew who I am, and he said, "You can get me in the New York Times all you want. That'd be great. But if you don't get me in the Brooklyn Skyline and the Bay News every single week, I'll fire your ass." And it's those local newspapers that get thrown on people's porches or stuffed into their door handles that are free and have advertisements from local supermarkets in them and some content. Those were where he wanted to be, because he knew that's where he was meeting his people.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. We've been talking about like the mass media strategy, but that is a huge, huge point. Those local niche papers, the like doing even just op-eds and things like that in those papers each time, because they are delivered widely. Unfortunately, they're also dying, and then you get into like news deserts and all that other stuff, but it is absolutely critical.
So
Absolutely.
my suggestion here is that you take some of that money that you would be using for, I don't know what, like you're not using it for TV, you might use it for people going door to door. But here, how about this? You start those newspapers again.
Yes.
You go to the local supermarkets and you say, we need you to take out advertising in this to pay for it. But even if they don't want to pay for it, you put their ads in there and you pay for it as a party, and you make sure that your content gets to the people, because we don't have AM radio and we don't have Fox News. And MSNBC, for whatever reason, has never caught on the way Fox did. And I don't know if it's the message or if it's habit or whatever it is, but we lose so much of that we really do need to create our own opportunities to get our message out to people. And if you can, again, reach them in a place where they're eager to look, especially nowadays when food prices are going up and you want to know, where you can get a cheap can of coffee or bananas that don't cost a fortune or whatever it is, and you can put content in there, that's a better spend than radio ads and TV ads and so on. And my last point is this. Over the last month or so, we have watched the Iranians win the messaging battle like nobody's business. I mean, they are so good with these Lego videos that they put out.
So funny.
And all the other stuff that they're doing. And not for nothing, but when the non-Trumpers came and with the Lincoln Project, their stuff was better than anything the Democratic Party had put out in, I don't know, 40 years or 50 years or something like that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's really real. And so first off, to your point about like the local papers and creating the local infrastructure, you'll be happy to know that there are groups of people working on this. Now, none of it has the funding it needs, but there are people who are working on that, particularly in rural communities, and in, purple areas. So I think that's brilliant. The content creativity piece of it, huge, yes, absolutely. So I recently heard a panel where there was a national leader in the Democratic Party is all I will say. And he was like, you guys, the ad with the coffee mug and everyone sitting around the kitchen table, stop making that shit. It doesn't work. People are tuning it out. Like, I need you to be more creative. And so there is, at least, I think, for what it's worth, even though everything is fucking tragic right now, the silver lining to the 2024 ass kicking is that a lot of Democrats just like stopped for a second, and a lot of operatives were like, wait, do I know how the fuck campaigns work? I might not know how campaigns work. I know I've been doing this my adult life, but I don't actually know how this works anymore. And I mean, I was one of those, because if you look externally, like if from the outside, I did not work on her campaign, but from the outside, with the time that she had in particular, Kamala ran what appears to be essentially a textbook campaign, Democratic campaign. The training that we have been given, the tools that we use, it looked pretty damn smooth. And so to watch this thing that, mirrors everything that we've been taught totally fucking fail. Just like, oh, okay. So I think there is at least more willingness to be more creative. There is willingness to change that hasn't been there in a long time. And there are those of us who've been harping on this for a long time, but I think that shock of 2024 really kind of woke up some people, and I'm hoping nothing changes overnight. Some of it won't change before 2026, but I am hopeful that we are headed in a direction where we'll stop worrying so much about a central message and start worrying about trusted messengers targeting people where they are and speaking to them in a way that they can understand.
And, you kind of alluded to this a little bit before without using the word, but authenticity matters. And unfortunately, I'm a big Kamala Harris fan. I liked what she did for the most part, but she was often not authentic. And when she was at her best authentic, she was really good, even though like sometimes it was spinnable against her. Like when she went out and bought those very expensive pots and pans or whatever it was, and people, tried to make a big deal about it. And probably for some voters out there that worked. But both her and Hillary Clinton suffered from a lack of authenticity that certainly Donald Trump never has to worry about, even though it's all bullshit. He is not who people perceive him to be. This guy's never put a gallon of gas in his car or visited a supermarket or anything like that his entire life.
Yeah.
And yet every man relates to him, and it's just, it's probably more of a political talent that he has, that Bill Clinton had, that Barack Obama to an extent had, that a lot of politicians don't have.
I agree with you to an extent. The asterisk that I would put on that statement is if you listen to all the names that you said, all of the authentic politicians are men and all of the inauthentic politicians are women. Women get punished for being authentic. Then we're unprofessional. Then we're inexperienced. We're not going to be relatable to most men no matter what. There are exceptions. There absolutely are exceptions to that. And there are women who are able to break through. But it is yes, it needs to happen. And yes, like it is something that we are conscious of and working on. And also, it only works to an extent with women, because they're also like, well, if you're not wearing the right thing, if your hair's not cut the right way, if you don't have the right color lipstick on, if you don't have enough makeup on, you're too old. If you have too much makeup on, you're too young. Like, it's a whole thing. So the authenticity standard is tough to meet right now for at least half of our candidates.
Yeah, there's something to that for sure. Although there's also the fact that she was probably painfully aware that if there was a primary process, she would not have been the candidate. And so she's operating from a deficit to begin with.
I do not disagree with that.
I mean, a lot of the issues with her campaign was and Scott and I have said this for 2 years. We were talking about this when Biden was president. Biden should have basically resigned after he got in, resigned, turned it over to her, let her stand on her own 2 feet. By waiting as long as he did, he basically put the Democratic Party behind the 8 ball. You know, they didn't have time to run a modified primary to be able to see. So that made things tough. And as a father of 4 daughters, I can say, unfortunately, the United States seems not to be ready for a woman president. They just don't seem ready for it. Yep. And you know, all my to the chagrin of all of my daughters and my bride, that seems just to be the way it is. So, you know, you've got the issue, and I want to stick with the thing with women. Or actually, I want to kind of go a little bit with 2 different things. Number one, the local papers thing. I think that's very good for the local area. And Scott's a marketing guy. I'm not. I couldn't sell you something you wanted. But Scott is a marketing guy and has worked in that field. The local paper is a great thing. And I'm going to do it, Scott. But we here in South Carolina have Lindsey Graham. That's one of my theories. Is everything always comes back to Lindsey Graham. The bound theory. If it's bad, it always comes back to Lindsey Graham or Hitler, one or the other. So
I can South Carolina did kind of start the whole fucking thing, didn't they? I mean,
well, yeah, and you know, being from New York, I don't understand it, but that's okay. So you can put it in local papers. That's fine, but he represents 4 million people, which is about the size of South Carolina. Charleston has a lot different issues that they're dealing with than, say, Columbia, than, say, where I am, which is in the upstate, Greenville, Spartanburg area. How do you make that local thing work in that kind of environment where, and again, this is something we've been saying, at the federal level, they represent too many people. The original founding fathers, they only represented 20,000. Now they're representing almost 750,000. And they're spread all over the place. Mm-hmm. So how can you take that, and I agree with it, you know, that little local paper that everybody's going to pick up on, and everybody's going to, you know, a little something in there about the candidates that's going to help them. How is that going to relate to a constituency that is like 750,000 people, number one, that because it's 750,000 people have totally different issues than if it was only, say, 20,000.
Mm-hmm. I'll tell you how, Mark. You hire people like me.
Well, there is that.
I have some additional thoughts. So
other than hiring Scott, wait a minute.
Look, everybody hires Scott. Number one.
Everybody hires Scott.
And then when he figures out how to fix it, he'll tell me, and then we'll both make a lot of money. So it'll be great. I would like to put a pin in this just for a second because it keeps shouting in my head. So I just have to say it. The other thing about Joe not stepping down that created something that we are still digging ourselves out about is that he lied to us. The Democratic Party lied to us. They turned us into liars and we lost the moral high ground. So there's that. Number one. Number two.
All right. So what do you see him lying about? What did you specifically say?
About his competence.
Okay.
Like he couldn't hang. And they just refused to admit it. And they kept telling us, the party line kept being, he's got this. And they had us all out there saying, no, it's fine. He's got this. And he did not got it. Yep. So
in a big way.
Agreed. In a big way. So there's that. All right. On the local issues thing, I'm gonna do the thing again, where I go back to the talking to people and so the concept that I'm discussing, it has an academic term in politics. It's called reverse coattails. It's the concept that, you challenge and you run candidates at the state and local level where they are most relatable to the issues that people deal with every day. They turn out to vote for these people that are, their friend, family, cousin, church member, like PTA president, whatever. And then they will vote up the rest of the ticket with the party for the most part, the elected officials who are running at the local level are doing things to improve their lives. So people are going to turn out, if they are turning out, they're convinced to turn out by a city council candidate or a county supervisor candidate who is a Democrat, and they're coming to turn out for the Democratic supervisor candidate. They're not going to skip the presidential race, right, and only vote for supervisor, or the congressional race and only vote for supervisor. So it is about, and not only that, but like, if you look at this whole idea, like everybody hates politicians. No, everybody hates Congress. Congress polls somewhere between 16 and 22% on any given day. Local politics, local elected officials, local government, the concept of local government, polls in the 60s. So there is an untapped resource of political trust there that we're just not using. We're just ignoring it and going, well, why can't Lindsey Graham appeal to everybody?
Because he's an idiot.
Well, he is. I mean, he's an idiot. That was a bad example. I should have come up with somebody else. But we were talking about Lindsey Graham, and
well,
so.
but I can add a little color to that if you don't mind.
I would
because where I was doing this in Brooklyn, and we made sure that we were in the supermarket. You know, they're not even tabloids. They were basically just advertisements. And we got them to put an op-ed page and a couple of news items and things like that in there. Other local politicians began to jump in too, and it got bigger and bigger. And the other politicians who joined us after we did it and showed how successful it was Anthony Weiner at the city council and Chuck Schumer as our local congressman before he became a U.S. senator. So these are not dumb people at all, and they're rising politicians who didn't see that the value of this until we proved to them that this worked. And Mark, the answer to your question is you have to have local talent doing this, writing these op-eds. Hopefully it is the whoever it is, city councilman or the alderman or the first selectman or whoever it is themselves doing it. But if not, there are certainly ghostwriters out there who could write for them and create an authentic sounding persona for them that people can relate to, and you get 95% of the local vote.
Yeah.
By doing that.
I think there's also the like digital version of that with Nextdoor and some other there's like Reddit.
Right, but that's passive. Eva, people have to go to that. We're putting this in their doorstep.
No, I know, but some people do go to that, and it's not about either or. It's about doing all of it and having the dedication to meeting people where they're at and communicating with people where they get their information, and showing up in the community, showing up at not just the grand openings or whatever, but the potlucks, right? The birthday parties, the anniversary parties, the PTA meetings, the neighborhood watch meetings, the
senior homes was a big one, right?
Yeah. And so
because they all vote.
It's something that we do, but because candidate campaigns are cyclical, they have a start and an end to them they're somewhere between 6 months and 4 years, depending on who's doing what where. I guess 6 if you talk about senators, but lame. And so you have this thing where there's like, you only start, okay, in a normal 2-year cycle, you're generally going to start fundraising immediately, right? Like as soon as you can, if you know you're running. So you start in like January, February of the off year prior to the election fundraising. You fundraise for an entire year before you like really start going out into the public. In that time period, you are only talking to insiders. You're talking to labor unions, and you're talking to Democratic clubs, and you're talking to like folks who have self-selected into the political process, because that's where the money is going to come from. And then in the election year, you're going to start ramping up your your community outreach or whatever, your door knocking, your county council meetings, whatever the things that you're going to over the course of the year. but it doesn't really hit until after Labor Day. There's this common knowledge in the campaign world that people don't pay attention to politics until after Labor Day. And then you have this crazy frenzy from Labor Day to Election Day. What the fuck is that? Like, I mean, I get it, like the short attention spans, but like at a certain point, if you're only showing up 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever the fuck that is, I don't even know how many weeks that is, out of a 2-year cycle, or if you have a 4-year cycle, then first off, you deserve to be here. You're really representing us, like all that shit. But secondly, like the lost opportunity that you're having to have conversations and to gain trust with the community is just bonkers. And that doesn't even count all the bills you said you were going to pass that you did not. And all the problems that you said you were going to solve that then you got into office and you were like, but there's lobbyists, I'm scared. Like, what?
Or I'm in the minority party and I can't get the job done.
Right.
Which is also really a lame excuse. And
it is such a lame excuse.
So what you're telling me is that we're not allowed to talk politics before Labor Day, or we're white after Labor Day.
Yeah.
Right. That's right.
That's the two rules that Labor Day has brought to us.
Right. And clear liquor before Labor Day, brown liquor after.
All right.
I didn't know that one.
Well, and you know what? Here's the nice thing. It's beer all the time, so that kind of helps an awful lot.
Even that's Hunter S. Thompson. It's before your time.
But all right, so you've talked a lot about you got to be off, keep your promises, which I think is a hugely important thing.
Be authentic. Keep your promises.
Be authentic. Keep your promises. I don't
campaign constantly.
Well,
Always be campaigning. ABC.
Always be campaigning.
Well, and closing. I know a few people in the House of Representatives, and I'll tell you, after Election Day, the campaign for the next 2 years starts the next day.
Yeah,
it starts the next day.
It does.
Well, they start with fundraising.
Right.
Fundraising.
Yeah.
Right. It starts there. And I get that. I truly do. But the fact is that and maybe it goes back to, again, we have such short memories. The Republican Party has not kept any of its promises. Everything's 2 weeks away. And we were talking about this the other day. Everything is 2 weeks from now. And the Democrats don't seem to capitalize after that 2 weeks. They don't seem to come in and say, "Hey, it's 2 weeks. Show me the money." They don't do that. So how, if we're going to accept the fact, as the general electorate seems to accept, that the politicians are not going to keep their promises, but they're still going to elect them, because I've always said the problem with the Congress isn't my representative, it's your representative. That's the one. I'm going to put my guy back in there. Not that I would, because I don't like my guy either, but it's my guy's problem.
By the way, who is your local congressman?
Tillerson.
Okay.
And I've been getting email. I've been getting emails from him. Huh?
That guy there's a South Carolina.
No, it's Timmons.
Okay.
It's Timmons. Yeah.
Anyway, you can go ahead and answer that question. I'll do the color when you're done with your play-by-play.
Is this like Gary, Keith, and Ron?
Yeah.
Does that make me Gary?
You're Gary.
I'm Gary. So you're Keith and she's Ron?
Yeah.
Okay,
I don't know who Ron is, but I bet he's cool.
Ron Darling, the New York
and he's the
Mets,
best looking of the three of them.
Well, I appreciate that. Okay, so I guess fuck. Okay.
We do that a lot. We say that a lot here on this podcast.
I think part of the problem of like not capitalizing on the unkept promises is kind of what we were talking about earlier in the beginning, where Democrats intellectualize everything instead of giving into the emotion of it. We don't do the emotional appeal. The Republicans don't keep their promises, but they give the voter somebody to blame and somewhere to channel their anger. The Democrats, when promises are not kept, go, okay, well, these are the 9 nuances about why this didn't work. And they do the same thing with the Republicans too. They don't just blame them. I mean, we're getting a little bit better at it with like just blaming Trump, right? Like they're building the muscle, but it's just not, it's not really there. They intellectualize everything instead of just giving into the anger and allowing people to feel validated in this righteous anger that democracy is broken, which is really what like it comes down to. There's whatever your issue is, you don't feel heard because you have this like fundamental like just distrust. And it's really hard to like to function in a space like that. And Democrats just frankly are afraid to say or do the wrong thing. They're scared of their own shadow. They're afraid to use the wrong vocabulary word. They're afraid to make people hurt people's feelings. They're afraid to campaign on fear. They are everything has to be perfectly buttoned up, perfectly written out, perfectly syntaxed, and rainbows and sunshine. And if it isn't rainbows and sunshine, I can't just say here's the bad guy and it's his fault. I have to show you like a flow chart and a 10-point plan for how I'm going to fix it. Like, we're a party made up of lawyers and academics and activists and journalists and people who have spent so much time studying these issues, and they are complex. Like, I'm not trying to say they're not. I'm a huge history nerd. I can trace everything that is going on right now back to the Confederacy. I can tell you all about how this is actually a giant failure of Reconstruction, and it's all actually Andrew Johnson's fault. Like, I've got a whole, like, I get it. I get it. And nobody gives a fuck. And so you have to just go for it, and you have to just say what you mean and mean what you say and get to the fucking point. And we're really bad at that.
So I'm just before you go, Scott, with your color commentary, although nobody can see this, you have nodded your head in agreement with Eva more times in this 45 minutes than you've ever nodded in agreement with me in 5 years.
Yeah, she's on point occasionally. No, a lot more. Yeah, no, I agree with everything that you just said. And here's what's missing. Snarky works. Snarky always works. You're a history buff. 1962 at the UN, Adlai Stevenson hits the Soviet ambassador with, "I'm prepared to wait till hell freezes over," right? A phrase that apparently nobody had ever heard before, and everybody in the UN laughed, and we won that debate. What are the great moments in debates? Sir, you're no John F. Kennedy, right? The snarky line that gets a laugh. In New York, when Mayor Giuliani was pulling all the fire alarm boxes out, we went after him for that, and I got the line. So this is how you're going to save money in the budget. What's next? Bucket brigades? And got a big laugh. And we were invited up to the fire commissioner's office, where he tried to explain to us what this program was all about, eliminating these fire alarm boxes. So it is a great tool. And this is what the Iranians learned that the Democratic Party has not. It is what the Lincoln Project people know that the Democratic Party has not. That you got to go after the laugh line, and you got to make fun of these people. And it's not just Trump, it's every single one of them. And you got to be nasty, and you got to be snarky, and you have to make it count and make them laugh.
I think that's right, and I think it also goes back to Mark's point earlier about the Honey Boo Boo Society, right? Like, you have to entertain people. We're very boring, and we're a drag, right? Like, you're not allowed to have joy as a Democrat. It's I don't know if you guys know this, but it's like we like sign a card that says like you can't ever have fun. We're boring and sad, and nobody wants to hang out with the boring, sad people. Like, one of the examples that I use a lot is I love college football. Okay, I'm a Tennessee Vol. I love Saturdays. I love game day. I wish Nick Saban was dead, and I'm really sad that he's so entertaining on ESPN. Like, it's like it's like giving me a lot of cognitive dissonance. Like, I have this just irrational like reaction to college football. I have opinions about states and cities, and that I like, and all of the people who live there that don't make any sense, and it's all based out of this fandom. And I went through a period where I had like a very complicated relationship with that because of CTE and because of the kids not getting paid and because of all the like the injustice of it. Like I let my ideology got in the way of my ability to enjoy it. And all of that is true. And eventually I just decided I really like football and that just has to be okay. And like I have to allow myself to enjoy the things that I enjoy because otherwise life is miserable. And so like, yes, it is absolutely terrible that all of these little boys in all of these inner cities are getting all of these concussions in order to prep for their one chance at the NFL and all of this other stuff and all the whatever. I'm also going to scream at the TV on Saturday, take his fucking head off. Right? Like the adrenaline and like the endorphin hit that hits from that is good. And most Americans have something like that or several somethings like that, you know, they enjoy and isn't morally perfect. Right. And so we can't just like constantly harp on how damaging it is the way that every single person lives their life and every single decision that they make. Like, nobody wants to hang out with that guy. And I think that one thing that we were on the cusp of doing really well in 2024 and we just didn't have the chance. I think Tim Wall's football game strategy was genius. And the fact that that ended after the election and we didn't like go back in there and keep mimicking that at like the local, state, and federal level is a mistake.
Well, to your point, Tim Walz for about 2 weeks was a great campaigner because he was funny. He called them weird. He called them out. And then I don't know, somebody in the campaign must have gotten to him and said, "We need you to be more serious now." And he's a peak friend like everybody else. And it's just serious it's serious, but it doesn't come across.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm an 80s football guy, right? You know, Lawrence Taylor hit really hard, break their leg in half, you know.
Ouch. I remember that. Ouch.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But hard hits. And that's the game. And the game's not the same as what it used to be.
No, but the hits can still be pretty damn good.
Unbelievable. And I love hockey. Unfortunately, all my teams are depressing. The Rangers. And of course, we love baseball here. And the Mets are just killing us. But anyway. All right. So before I let you go, and I'm going to put you on the spot. Who do you think is going to be? Give me 3 people you think are going to be nominees for the Democratic.
Would like to be nominees. How about
would
that?
like to be nominees for president in 2028.
I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that, and I'm not going to do it not for the reason that you think. Like, it's not that I don't have. I'm literally not even thinking about it. I don't give a fuck who we nominate. I will vote for a wet paper towel. Like it doesn't matter to me. I think everybody has their flaws. I think everybody has their opportunities. My like one hard opinion is I don't like Gavin Newsom because I was a Californian for long enough to know that he's a shit governor and a bad executive, and I think he would be bad at president. That said, he's kind of a psychopath in a really good way. He is entertaining, and if he's our psychopath, I'll fucking take it. Like I don't care. I literally do not care. I don't care.
That's not. And one of the things we've said about Gavin Newsom was he's not a dude.
Yeah, he's not a dude.
He's not a dude. He's not the guy that you're going to go out and have a beer with because he's going to have a salad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But his social media is really good. Although he doesn't do it. It's a young Latino woman named Camille, and she's very talented and she's very funny. And their communication style could hit some of the pieces that we need, but also Californians don't know how to beat Republicans. So I wouldn't go there if I like they've forgotten. It's all dim on dim violence. Speaking from experience. I wouldn't go there if I were us, but also if we do, I'm down. Like whatever. I don't care. I don't care. Wet paper towel for president.
I agree with your basic premise. This has to start from the bottom. It's got to be local, and people have to work their way up. And then, whoever it is, I guess, hopefully they're authentic enough to be able to get through. I'm pretty sure it's not going to be a woman this time. And I know as a woman that must have hurt you, but it's the last 2 elections that women ran haven't worked all that well.
I think that's probably true. And I don't love like that an entire gender is going to take the fall for that. But also, if we have a duty to win, and I don't have to like how we get there.
Yes.
And I think if we could all get on board with that just a little bit more, there'd be a little bit more umph behind all of this.
So in other words, the Democratic Party needs to have the Machiavellian attitude of the ends justify the means. And maybe that is exactly what we got to be looking at here.
To an extent, yes, I think that's true.
Yeah, we don't have Fox, and that's a big influencer on people. And so you've got to be able to break that somehow. You've got to be able to defeat them when they have an unlevel playing field in their favor.
Yeah.
And
anyway,
so you got to find some other thing. All right.
All right. So, Eva, I'm going to tell you right now, you were an absolute joy. My wife, when the thing came to have you as a guest, my wife was so excited, and she's been waiting for you to come on. Scott probably has to go get Ben Gay. He's nodded his head in agreement so much with you during this podcast. I've never seen it. I'm actually going to save this video because I'm going to get the editors to put this video up at somehow, because we're not technologically smart enough to be able to do that. But I mean, this has really been an absolute joy.
I'm going to go look for those earrings for my wife.
Oh, good. Yeah, good. There you go.
And my two daughters.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. So, absolute joy having you on. Hopefully, someday we can have you back again, because it's fun. I mean, this is absolute fun. Maybe as we get closer to the election of 2026. So, Eva Posner, we will have links to your website and all that you are doing in our description, and we encourage everyone to check it out. Eva, thank you so very, very much.
Thank you so much, everybody. Wet paper towel for president.
Very nice. Very nice. And that's all the time we have for today's episode. The Nova Society is a production of Nova Society Media, a division of the Phoenix Research Institute. We want to thank our production partners, Buzzsprout, who hosts the Nova Society, Audacity, our editing team, Apple Podcasts, the largest source of podcast and music online, Spotify, the most popular platform for the Nova Society, and iHeartRadio, your destination for all things music and podcasting. The Nova Society is available on all of these and other quality platforms listed in our description. And most importantly, we want to thank you, our listeners. Without your support, the Nova Society could not be possible. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing on the platform of your choice. It's easy, it's free, and helps our channel grow. For questions or comments, you can reach us at nova.society.podcast@gmail.com. So on behalf of Dr. Scott Gershwer and all of our production partners here at the Nova Society, I'm Dr. Mark Bound. Remember, the true power of society is knowledge. Thank you for listening, and we hope to see you again next time.